Han has just got back from Vietnam, and he's really getting
Han back from Vietnam.
K-Han's back.
That's been my nickname my whole life, Han from Vietnam.
Han from Vietnam. He's back on his BS, and so he's just, getting
Hold on, though.
You know?
This guy, you're kind of hot right now in the city. Pause. Like, this guy is doing mad. How many guests are you up to now at this point?
Man, we got 26, 25, something around there.
Oh my! Let me tell you this. Can I gas you up right now? Can I gas? Let me just gas you up. Let me gas my man up right now. 6 months ago, no, almost a year ago, I didn't even know who this guy was.
That's true.
And this just goes to show you persistency.
Persistency?
Persistency. Is
that a word?
Bro, I've been in Vietnam for a month, man.
He's learning English.
We learned in English.
He's learning English. Yeah.
This shows you the power of persistence. He's trying to get a meeting with me, Kev, and Mike, or whatever, and then it's just it's not that we curve people, but there's just so many different priorities that comes.
I got curved.
So I didn't actually meet him till months after his initial request. And initially, did you ask for a podcast?
No, man, I don't even know what I asked for initially. I went out and I tried to find the best content creators in Vancouver. And then I just DM'd, Self-Hired Brand, because I've seen Self-Hired since 2009, doing the music videos or whatever.
That's all Kev, Val, that's them doing the music videos.
And,
I can't take any credit for that.
Well, straight. And so I was like, oh, these guys mainstay in Vancouver, iconic Vancouver brand. So I try to go for the best in whatever situation I'm trying to get into, and I'll just hop on those DMs. That's.
And let me tell you, so he goes from that. Then we somehow talked about the idea of a podcast. I was doing self-portraits at the time.
Well, no, you know what it was? We did a commercial first. We did the dad hats.
Yes. We were doing the hats.
Yeah.
And so we're somewhere in between that, and then the initiative too. So sometimes it just takes a lot of initiative too. So if you come with an idea to somebody, like if I brought you an idea, it's just an idea until I say, well, this is my steps, these are my plans and stuff. And that's what Josh did, man. Then he came with the idea of the podcast. Next thing you know, we're looking at studios. We signed a contract. We got the studio.
Yeah.
And then you're off to the races. Now I can't even get on the show anymore. I don't even know who are you, man.
I know, man. We came up with the initial idea. We're like, yeah, we'll have a couple guests on, and then most of the time we'll just be me and K-Han just chopping it up, whatever bullshit, and then we'll get the team on there, and it'll just be a little fun thing. Next thing you know, we got, iconic DJs, we have mainstay artists, we have entrepreneurs in the city, like really. Like when you think of Vancouver, like Van City Original sponsors us now.
Yeah,
that's the most iconic Vancouver brand.
This is all within just months.
Man.
We're not even that deep into the podcast, and you've really shown an adaptive skill to be a good interviewer, listener, and just like I remember we were talking about the other day, it was just kind of a name we were throwing around as the voice of the city, and I think that's kind of what we always wanted as Self-Hired Brand. We just wanted to be a platform for anyone who was doing anything in the city that was creative or cool or anything, and naturally that just happened, and I've been able to step back and watch it all happen, because there's just so many things going on with Self-Hired now that it's kind of overwhelming, but
super.
But shout out to the team that you guys put together. We've put together.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
Shout out everybody else, because I don't even know.
Man, see, he's been gone in a month.
I'm behind the scenes. I'm really behind the scenes.
So if we grow, we've grown so much exponentially over like 4 or 5 months. In this last month has been the most exponential growth. Yeah. And this guy's been over in Vietnam, in hanging out in rice paddy fields and shit.
That's a fact. That's not even a joke.
I see the Instagram stories, bro. I know. Like, it's so funny. So I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to the shots in a second, but. This guy's like on his phone, and he's either like Nipsey Hussle, racks in the middle with some rice fields, and then the next day will be on his phone in the jungle with like some Vietnam folk music or something like that.
Listen, the reason I do that is because when I go back to Vietnam, people think I'm like a traveler. The people who do Instagram travel blogs and stuff. I'm not a traveler. I only travel to one place all the time. Yeah. It's my home country, right? and when I say that, people laugh, because you kind of be like the motherland. But they don't realize, because I'm raised here, but my roots are so embedded in my country. Like my majority of my family is over there. Everything I have is situated over there. Yeah. And so when I go back, it's like a big family reunion kind of thing. I'm from the South. I'm from the South. But this time, I'll tell you, I got to go because I brought my mom and my sister and my brother-in-law and stuff, so we did a lot of the tourist things. So we traveled to tourist destinations and whatnot, right? Yeah. But I'm not that privy with, or I'm not that adept with the social media.
You just got an iPhone the other day, first time.
But I really wanted to show people like the way I see Vietnam, the beauty of it, right?
Right.
The beauty of the country and the people, but I wanted to see it through a modern lens because, I'm from B-Town and I'm from Vietnam City, and then just so I always need to show you like, hey, this is like Vietnam, but then like through the way I interpret it, and that's why I have the music and stuff. And
oh my God,
sometimes people make stories and you write a bunch of things in the stories. Yeah. I just wanted to show no, what do you call it, filters, no fucking nothing, just this is it. And I wanted to show, like, I'm blessed to have family there, so I'm able to see like all sides of it. So from the rice paddy, like you said, like, how sometimes there's stereotypical jokes like rice paddies, tunnels and stuff. I really was, like, my family owns a little
plot of land
that is a rice paddy, right? And then everything from that into the really, really lavish beach resorts to the loud karaoke bars and all that. So that's one thing I was blessed with, or I'm always blessed with, this, to see that.
See, that's cute. And that's amazing. I don't mean to, downplay that, but like, this guy be like doing that with the Nipsey, with the rap, and then he'd do the folk music with the Vietnamese.
That's me.
Whatever, and that's like super, that's you. And then you'd be like, I don't know who's filming you, but you'd be like out in the streets with these like Gucci slippers on or Jordans on or some shit. And you'd be like, Mama says I'm gonna get jacked and shit, but she doesn't know I came up on Edmund.
No, she doesn't know. So. Like, here's the thing, like old Vietnamese people, and I think this is not just Vietnam. This is like Mexico. This is anywhere. People really think that you'll get pickpocketed, which is probably true, but like, I ain't the one to play with. Like, anywhere I go, I'm still not the one to play with. You know what I mean?
Come on now, stop playing. Anyways, yeah. So I digress. The team. So the team has grown exponentially as it has, with Self-Fired over the past years. But I mean, it was just myself, Val, who does all the operations, all the mics, the sounds.
Shout out to Val.
Shout out to Val.
Things
Val's here right
now.
You. Setting up all the camera angles, all the white balances, all that stuff. Kevin Wong, who produces the whole thing, cuts up the clips as well, all that stuff, does the actual branding of it. And then Kevin Hahn, who started off as the first guest and the interviewer, and has had multiple appearances now and all this stuff, and he'll do all the actually finding the clips and going through. So that's happening too. We have Naomi, who does the behind the scenes. Naomi does all the the meet and greets, what's going on, how you doing, all this stuff with the pre and the post podcast. People don't know.
Shout out to Naomi,
a great young talent. We'll do a 2-hour podcast, and we'll have an hour conversation before that, and then a 2-hour hour conversation after that. So there's like, we'll get to the studio at 5 o'clock, and then we'll leave there at 11. Go get pho real quick, and shit, we should even get her to film that. Make that. Yeah, she should come to pho. Anyways, so shout out to Naomi. Mike's working behind the scenes, all our IT, the Mike is essentially what's the Jewish guy in Wolf of Wall Street?
I don't know Wall Street that well.
You don't know that? I don't know, whatever. He without the world doesn't go round without Mike. Mike calculates the circumference and gets the winds going and all that type of stuff. So
Mike cuts the checks.
Mike also cuts the checks. He does also cut the checks. Listen, if you need any Excel spreadsheet work, that's your guy.
That's a fact.
And if you need to double up your business, that's also your guy.
That's a fact.
So there's the business acumen is him, and then I'm just the dumbass that shows up and talks for 2 hours, and then I go home. So everyone's like, hey Joss, how do I start a podcast? And I'm honestly like, listen, I have no freaking clue, because these guys do all the work, and I do a little research.
Don't downplay it.
I just show up. I run my mouth, and that's it.
No, don't downplay it. We're just gonna keep gassing each other here. If someone comes in and wants to use our production resources, because that's really initially all that we have or had to offer, is just the production experience.
Hold up, I'm so sorry, Jill.
Brianna.
Brianna.
Yes. Brianna, we ain't forget about you.
Brianna, because we got on a tangent there. So Brianna's come on in the last, 15 episodes or something like that, and has literally, so as you guys know, as you've watched the podcast, she'll be Googling stuff in the background. She'll be fact checking me. If we're on the podcast and I'm like, she's like, Josh, you sound like an idiot right now. She'll shoot me a quick text. Have you ever seen me look down on my phone? She's like, Josh,
she does. I didn't
shut
know
up about this. Or like, you're making a fool of yourself here, or talk about this. And I'm like,
I did not know that.
I'm like, oh, sorry, Brianna, my bad. So she really runs a show, and then she does all the notes as well, cuts it up right there. So, and then she also just supports. And a lot of the time people don't know, we don't even meet these guests. Like, they'll reach out to us, or we will reach out to them. And
first time,
it's the first time we've met them.
First time is on the show.
Literally on the show. And so if we're doing shoots, it's a large studio. If we're doing other shoots in other rooms, we're in and out. Like, Brianna holds the guests down. Like, I can throw any iconic person or any famous person in that room with Brie, and she's just gonna hold them down.
Yes.
Like, that means something.
Yeah. She's definitely taking a leadership role.
Anyway, so.
But what I'm trying to say is, factor in all these people is that to do anything, you kind of have to have that self-initiative. And
yes,
to come here and ask, we get asked a lot of different things, right? From a lot of different people, and whether it's music, whether it's corporate, whether it's just to be on the show, just to do this and that. But the initiative, like what I was saying that you did, was you came with an idea and you executed so thoroughly that we just jumped on board with you.
Yeah.
Had you had come with an idea and just kind of be reminded us every so often, that's going to get shelved, right? Because there's so much other things going on. And then especially in the clothing business and what we do to pay the bills through the music videos, through the corporate and stuff, those things have priority first.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? Those things have priority first. And then, but how the show kind of took center stage is just because there was such a huge outpour of people wanting to tell their story, people wanting to promote whatever they're doing. And I think you did a great job of filtering what would represent Self-Hired the best.
Yeah,
and
man.
What do you think you've learned from the past 26, 25 guests that we've had on? What do you think you've learned the most?
Dude, you know what?
And has it changed? Remember our first episode? And I said our opinions will change. Like we try to sound like smartasses in the first episode.
Oh man.
And has that changed since you've interviewed so many different people and had so many impressions on you?
Dude, the number one takeaway is that, like, no matter what stage of life you're at, what is most important at any stage of life, or any dollar amount that's in your bank account, or any, whether people are coming up to, like, whatever your level of fame is, if you're a genuine human at each one of those stages, and you remain a genuine human, and you actually care about people, that's gonna win. That is the key. That is literally the key.
Yeah.
Like, having humility and humbleness, and always, so that's I put those two together. And then curiosity. Cole Walliser, right? So Cole Walliser was like one of our big, like, famous guests or whatever, right? Like Hollywood, Hollywood director, he's, Channing Tatum, Katy Perry, Pink, Mercedes-Benz, Revlon, like household names, right? And I literally I've been a fan of him for a while because, he's got a dope 1991 Mercedes-Benz, which I think is dope. And I just comment yo, that's a dope car or something like that. And he's just like, oh yeah, and mentioned something about Vancouver. And I was like, yo, if you're ever in Vancouver, come up. But the point is like, he was willing to have that exchange with essentially just, a nobody. And he came up and had that exchange, had the podcast, brought his mom to the podcast, like had so much genuine conversation of just like what she's doing, what he's doing, how they're interacting, and then past the podcast, like, yeah, he posted it, swipe up, all that stuff, amazing. Still to this day, like Trevor Noah just featured him on his Instagram. Trevor Noah's got like, I don't know, 7 million followers or something. Yeah. I was like, and I just saw it, I was right on the gram, I saw like 1 minute ago, like tag Cole, I'm like, Cole, this is insane, like congratulations, dude. He's like, yeah, dude, I can't believe it. Replies to me, yeah, dude, I can't believe it, If I hit him up in the DMs tomorrow, he will hit me back. If I'm like, hey, let's come do a follow-up podcast. Like, I don't know how busy he is, but if he wants to come do a follow-up podcast, I guarantee he will give it the time of day, even if he can't do it. So like that humbleness, like it's like Mr. Martini, humbleness. Carmel Rodriguez, so humble. Josh Johnsey, so humble. And at each one of those levels, if we're talking about what we're doing or how we're moving or people we're working with, they're all like actually compelled. Like you can tell when someone's actually compelled and passionate about what they're talking about or passionate about what you're doing. That's so fucking cool. So like that is a constant throughout. And it's like, I mean, listen, as a young guy, you're always trying to like, you know, battle ignorance. And it's just like, yo. And ego. Yeah. So it's like, it really, for me, it's just been like, dude, it does not matter where you're at. Number one priority, be a good person, help others, be trustworthy, and the rest is gonna figure itself out, man, honestly.
Yeah, I just wanna kind of tell a little bit about what my observations has been since I've been on vacation for a month in a place like Vietnam and traveling in a developing country, just to kind of connect to what you're saying, is being in a place like that, sure, there's the glitz and there's the glitz and glamour of people who are just, you know, out to show off and out to live it up. But majority of the country in a developing country like that is it's very sobering. And I mean that by saying this, is that when you're traveling through these parts and you're seeing, and it's my own people, right? And anybody who knows me knows I care so much about my own people, right?
It's true.
But when you're seeing people, you know, push their little cart trying to, you know, sell their corn or mangoes or, you know, whatever they're selling, and then you see people on the street trying to just hustle you to buy a lottery ticket, because that's our version of begging, pretty much. Yeah. Selling lottery tickets is pretty much their version of begging for money. Yeah. So when you see all these things, it's very sobering, because coming from a place like Vancouver, where, you know, it's high society, and I don't mean to take this away from anybody who's trying to do anything, follow any of their dreams, but it seems like, especially being in our industry where it's media and social media outlets and whatnot, is that you come across a lot of everyone wants to be somebody, and everybody is trying to do something to get notoriety, and that self-validation that everyone craves, it kind of it almost creates like such a bubble, where when you go into another part of the world where people are just, their only motivation is hand and mouth, trying to feed themselves and feed their kids, and you ever see those, if you ever watch those travel shows and you see those people sit on the road, and you don't need to understand the language, you don't need to understand anything, you can see it on their faces, it tells their story. Do you know what I mean? And so when you're there, you just don't have this like cloud of, I need to puff myself up, I need to be something more than I am. Or everybody's trying to do more than they can, but they don't need to bolster themselves, right? And we do live in an age of social media. We do live in an age of self-promotion. And I'm not knocking anyone down for that. I mean, that's what we do as a business, right?
Yeah, but we're in that business.
What I like about what you're saying is the people that's been on our show, or the people that we look up to and we want to work with, is they have accomplished things. There's no other reason they'd be on the show if they haven't, right? In whatever aspect they have. But they remain this kind of genuineness where you don't feel like you're talking to somebody who thinks they're above you.
Totally.
In fact, they're on the show to teach something, but they're on the show to also learn something. And I think you do a great job of that, is to extract that knowledge from them and create a conversation where everyone can learn something from.
Yeah, man, you got to peel back the layers of the onion, right? Like you kind of have to, and some people it's easier than others. Some people are really guarded and want to protect their brand. Other people are just like, yeah, I'm here, I'm hanging out. This is a long form conversation, which is amazing, right? And you kind of get past those layers of just like ego and insecurity, and then you kind of actually get to the shits, if you know what I mean. Like you actually, and then you occupy a space in someone's mind that they're free and they're comfortable and they're flowing. They get in a flow state, and that's why I'm like, all right, well, guys, we got to wrap this up. And they're kind of looking at me like, huh? Like what? You know, like I'm like, well, it's been 2 hours. Like, oh shit! Like I thought it was 30 minutes. I thought this was a 2-hour podcast. And I'm like, well, it was 2 hours. You know, and so they don't necessarily realize that. And when I get that look, when I'm like trying to wrap it up, and I say that little like surprise, I'm like, that was a good one. You know, like that's how you know, because you got in that state or whatever. But to piggyback off what you just said with, you know, people coming on that have actually accomplished something, yes, that's totally true. And I think that a lot of what we do is trying to get reflection and people that have accomplished on a certain level are reflecting back on those first 5, 10, 15 years. And, you know, that's not to shit on the guys that are in the process, because that's valuable too.
Yeah.
But I think we've taken a little bit of a different approach. But you know what? A lot of these guys are missing. Like, I can't even tell you how many DMs, like, you know, how you get, I get, Kev gets, the self-hired just brand and company gets. Like, I feel terrible, but like, there's only a certain amount of weeks, and with that, there's something to be said about persistence. And to even go back even further, what we were just talking about 10, 15 minutes ago was, how did this podcast even come to existence? Fucking persistence.
Yeah.
So come with a value proposition. And we get this with interns. I get this at work all the time. I get it in the athletic world as well, coaching, and I also get it here in digital. It's like, yo, put me on. Or, yo, I should be on. Or, yo, come work with me. Or take me on as a client or whatever. It's like, hey, well, what are you about? And like, this needs to be a transaction. Like, there needs to be a give and take here. And you need to have a plan of attack. So like, how do I make, like, I'm gonna come to Self-Fire with a massive value proposition that they don't even really fully understand yet. But that's okay, because we'll get there. Like, but there is a plan of attack, and then execute on a high level. You know, so it's like, come in, this is what I'm gonna offer. And a lot of the time it's Gary Vee, it's jab, jab, hook, right? It's give, then you get. Give, then you get. And then you need to understand that on a 6-month scale, on a 12-month scale, on a 5-year scale. Because what matters? Like, do you want to be successful at 30 or 40? Does it matter to you when you look back retrospectively? Because all we're really trying to do is just minimize the amount of regrets we have on our deathbed. That's really when live a fulfilled life. So it's like, oh man, I really should have not tried to weasel my way into that at this age, and actually just waited and got the resume, or came and developed the value I can give, and then give that 2 years later, or 3 years later, or 4 years later. Because there's a lot of things where, you know, you might get an opportunity, you're not ready, and you're gonna lose it. Like, you're gonna lose it. Like, so many opportunities have come to me personally where I was not ready for it.
Yeah.
And I went and chased the people that are the best in different situations, because that's what I do, because I want to be the best, so I put myself around the best. And I'll go and I'll try to grab those people or those companies, and I've put myself in situations where I'm like, oh, this is literally 20 levels higher than me. Yeah. You know, I need to jump up a couple first.
The deep end.
You know?
Do you think people feel propelled these days to almost, without a certain art, without a certain field of knowledge or area of expertise, it's almost as if the societal pressures, peer pressures, or whatever it may have you, is to be on a platform without actually, just for the sake of being on a platform?
It's a fucking good point.
Because,
a super good point.
Let me ask you, for example, you didn't come in knowing that you're going to be a podcast host.
No.
You just filled that void that we had, and then with just ambition and work ethic, wanting to get better and consistently doing better.
Well, that you have to deliver.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, you have to deliver. Like, there's no, like, if I came on and we did 3 episodes and we're all terrible, they'd be like, Josh, this is not gonna work out. Yeah. This is not your role. Yeah. This is not your lane. Like, you know, why are you in someone else's lane? Stay in your lane. There's no traffic in your lane. Like, stay in your lane. Yeah. Why are you doing something else?
But what I mean is does it feel like, to me, it seems a lot like, now that I kind of have a background role where I answer a lot of emails and I meet a lot of different people, and not to take away from anybody who's an artist or whatnot, but I do meet a lot of people who I question if they want a platform for the sake of having a platform.
That's what,
and there's a romanticism with kind of the old days where celebrityness or celebrity culture,
clout,
before there was a word clout, but it was almost mysterious in a way, and when you see them in an interview, that's like the reveal that you have. But nowadays it's almost as if everyone has an opinion on everything, and everybody just needs to be heard. This needs to be heard. This needs to be heard. And that's kind of scary, because in a way you don't have a core solid moral, core solid ethics that come across you. Like the guests that we've had, you can almost see that there's a core value of ethics.
Yeah.
Core values that they have, and they communicate that, whether it's wrong or right, whether we agree with it or our audience agree with it, but they really believe in their core value ethics.
Stand on ground that you can stand on.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, but I think with that, yeah, that people want a platform even if they don't necessarily deserve it. Like, this shit is earned. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, why do we have a large viewership or a listenership is because every time that you get that little notification, like episode this person, you're like, holy shit, they got that person? Or damn, I would really wanted to hear what that person says. It's not like, or maybe they don't know that person, but within the first 10 or 15 minutes are like, oh, this is why this person is here. Right? So it's like, we want to continually surprise and innovate, even though we don't, like, this isn't a MMA podcast, this isn't a business podcast, this isn't a self-help podcast. It's very broad in terms of we're just getting underneath the skin and the layers of thought of highly skilled professionals and getting into that. But notice that word, highly skilled professionals. And you don't need a degree to be considered a highly skilled professional. You just need to have put in the time and the hours. And once you really truly have gotten to that level, and you just talk about preparedness, is once you're there, you have I don't want to get too crazy, but you've manifested that energy in a sense where these things will just start coming to you.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't ready to be in this position, 2 years ago. This would be a disaster, right? So I had to constantly hone and skill and craft conversation skills. Am I a good listener? No, I was a terrible listener. Now I'm a way better listener. I guarantee that my girlfriend loves me more because I listen more after doing 30 episodes of this podcast. You know what I mean? So it's like, these are skills that are being constantly honed and crafted, and I have to get to a certain level in order to even ask for a certain opportunity. Like, I'm not going to go ahead, okay, so we know this person who knows a Gary Vee, or knows Dwayne The Rock Johnson, or knows Nipsey Hussle. Like, we're not there yet, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
But we know our lane, so it's like, okay, let's craft our skills to here, craft our skills to here, craft our skills to here. Oh, now we're well-rounded and we have the production team. Our host is good enough. Now let's go for it. Yeah. Not like, I just started doing this, or I'm 3 months into this, or I'm a couple weeks into this, put me on your platform. No. Reps, man. Yeah. Go to the gym. Reps.
What are some of the comments that you've been getting about the show, and what are kind of the questions that come through from people that listen to the guests that we have?
Well, so we have a competitive advantage. The competitive advantage is that podcasts are relatively new. This platform has not been explored yet. So a lot of the time when we have noteworthy guests on, they haven't had that opportunity to speak in elongated form. So just simply based off the fact that they haven't had that chance yet, it's going to sound amazing because, like, oh wow, I've never heard such and such person. Oh, DJ Flip Out, I only ever hear him on the radio or in little 3-minute interviews. I've never heard him talk for 2 hours. Like, I had no idea. I've gained so much respect for this person. So just based off the type of content that we're doing, we have a competitive advantage. And then the other comment that I get is just like, I'm constantly trying to get better, as you can speak to from being a trainer, and so my vision, sometimes I've gone research intensive, other times I've just gone 100% on a riff and been like, fuck it. Like, I love the whole not meeting a guest and just jumping in and being like, this might work out, but it might not, and I like that excitement. But you know what, like, I'm trying to always think about the listener and what they want to hear and how they want to consume information, and if we can really have a great value add. And I think we've just been really lucky. And I consume podcasts like crazy and trying to take things from different people and different interviewer styles and different narratives of podcasts. And I think I'm just lucky in that I've found a conversation flow or an intuition for conversation that goes well with the listener. So back to the comments that I've gotten is like, I love that when you're talking or when you're in the midst of a conversation, you might ask the question that I'm thinking in my head.
Okay.
That's the
important.
highest compliment. Is the highest compliment, man, because I want to in the moment, I want you to be so into what you're hearing in your earbuds or your AirPods or whatever that you feel like you're sitting there and you want to jump up and say, okay, Carmel, but what about this? Yeah. Or, okay, so-and-so, what about this? Or when you worked with this person, did you think this? Or when you got thrown into this situation, didn't you have these doubts? And it's like just to be able to kind of have that intuition through reps, that has been very, very valuable. So that's definitely the comment that I've gotten.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, man, every episode is scary,
Why so?
Dude, we're at a point now where you can't fuck up with guests. You can't fuck up with guests. We'll have, JMK from Toronto, or we'll have Flip Out on. And if I have a terrible conversation with Flip Out, but I'm not going to be able to sleep for a week. And then I'll have to have a conversation with Kev and be like, Kev, we can't put it out. Yeah. And then I can't go back to Flip Out. I'm sorry, I was such a bad host. Can you come back on? No, I can't do that. We're at a point where it's like, man, if you shoot your shot, it has to go in now. It has to go in.
Well, let me ask you this. What has been the most practical thing that you think our listeners or someone like yourself and me who absorb podcasts of all kinds, for self-improvement, for whatever task, whatever skill we want to get better at, what has been the most practical pieces of advice that you've come across throughout the podcast?
Out
of all the guests, I'm really sorry, I don't know who said it, but I remember it very vividly. I remember the message. We've had so many amazing guests on, it's actually ridiculous. But we had a conversation, who was it with? My God. Sorry, whoever, I'm stealing your words. But the message was so amazing. The message was, you have a battle between your kind of like emotional self and your logical self. And those two are going at it to try to get the best outcome out of your life. And so that was a really cool contrast to say, okay, like I have two sides of my brain that are working against each other. And then within that housing, and I'm totally slaughtering how this was said, and I apologize, but again, emotional self, your logical self, your emotional self wants to eat the piece of cake. Your logical self goes, well, no, like I'm going to sleep. I don't need that food. I'm full, right? And then within that housing, within that framing, is those two are working together or working against each other, and they're creating an archetype, which is really interesting in terms of like, was it Carmel? It might have been Carmel. I think it's Carmel.
I think it's Carmel.
When you said about the nutrition thing?
Yeah. I think that's it. Shout out Carmel.
We could play it back.
Yeah, we'll play it back. Someone on YouTube will find it. Anyways, and so within that you have an archetype, and then I think what she was saying was that once you establish what you are, who you are, what your identity is, and how you want to move, and the image that you want to portray, yes, it was totally Carmel. You start to do everything within that archetype, and you start to really move and craft your lane within that archetype. And then what you don't realize is that you're really just, you're playing a movie character. And so I was asking her a lot about staying disciplined and, continuing to be this super athletic, hot role model that has 2 kids that are amazing kids, an amazing husband, all this stuff. Like you're playing into this role, and this person that I see you as is Instagram star, or star in general, business owner, all this stuff. And she's like, yeah, but I try really hard to jump out of that narrative. And I just play that back for the average person, like, okay, so you have your two, your emotional self, your logical self. That creates an archetype of who you are as a person. And then it then moves throughout this narrative of life. And I'm like, man, I should really try to break the narrative of my life. So I hate being pigeonholed into one, like right now. So the podcast is popping. Self-Fire is popping. So now I'm the podcast guy. I don't want to be the damn podcast guy. So I'm trying to find a way to break that narrative. Like, I had a meeting today with hopefully a future podcast guest, and I asked her, I was like, with the person that you've researched me to be, what would the exact opposite of that person do? Because I'm just going to go ahead and do the exact opposite. Because I just want to throw people for a loop. Because I don't want necessarily to be pigeonholed. You know what I'm saying? So Carmel definitely said that.
Yeah. Can I just interrupt real quick? Just to piggyback on what you said, you got to check out Robert Greene's new book, Laws of Human Nature.
I do.
Because that right there is exactly what he kind of elaborates on, is everybody has a fantasy about themselves. And that fantasy actually helps you come to grips with, because every day you are faced with that battle, like you said, with emotional and logic. And in order for you to kind of come to terms with yourself, is that you're constantly telling yourself a story. So whether if you're an addict, or you're an abusive husband, or you're a pro basketball player, you're a Tiger mom, you're telling yourself this story every day in order for you to get by. And in some ways that's good, because you need that vision for yourself, right? But in other ways it can be destructive, right? Like you constantly, I'm an addict, or I'm no good, or I'm this and that, and you constantly tell yourself that story. So everybody has this kind of fantasy, whether it's good or bad, and they're just living in that fantasy in order to kind of get by every day. So I mean, it's more eloquently said, and it's more elaborate in his book. So I definitely would recommend that.
That's so true, bro. You know what? I was just for those that have come up in terrible situations, you start treating yourself like a second-class citizen, and then you manifest a second-class citizen life for yourself, because that's what you have to always told yourself, right? So I always talk about that internal voice.
Or the opposite, you become super egotistic to compensate for that life where you felt dehumanized.
Yeah, man. Just crafting your own narrative is such an interesting thing to, like, we play mind games on ourselves all the time, but it's got to be interesting for you from a directing standpoint, because for those that don't know, like, Kevin Hahn is the guy behind all the self-portraits that you may or may not have seen. They wrapped up season 1, and I think season 2 is coming. I don't know. We won't talk about that in a sec.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's like this. So self-portraits.
It's like this.
It's like this. Self-portraits was the precursor to the ThinkSpace podcast.
Yes.
And how that came about was, it was strictly my idea for. See, this is all I ever contribute to the team. I just sit around.
This is about to be a lie.
And
this is about to be a lie.
I just come up with ideas, and I have no idea how it's gonna pan out, how it's gonna work out, how timing, scheduling is going to work out, how budgets is going to work out. I just sit with Kev and Mike. I say, yo, I got this idea. Right? That's all I do. I'm just like, because I was kicking it with Kev for like a year, and then I just slowly just come up with ideas.
Well, you guys already started a podcast, right?
No, we didn't. We had a show called, and I remember saying this in one of our first episodes, was our first ever podcast episode. So we had a show called Off the Cuff, and that was going to be like kind of like the podcast. It was like a Larry King style interview, and I have footage of it. It's not whack, but I was just.
But it's also not out right now. So.
It's not out for a reason, and this is gonna answer your question of why we don't have a season 2 for self-portraits yet, because you come up with an idea, you bring the concept to production,
yes,
and then you realize, oh shit, it's not as good as I thought it would be, or oh shit, the timing takes too long. Or you realize, oh man, like this is gonna need a lot more work, right?
Yeah.
So that got shelved, and that idea became self-portraits. So self-portraits, it was a way for me thinking that, okay, how do we promote the clothes? So at the time we had these jerseys, I believe. So I wanted to promote the clothes, but I wanted to bring that. I wanted other people to promote it for us through just their lifestyle.
Right.
So really use the idea of the self-hired brand, where you're self-motivated, you're self-empowered, and just kind of document that. And then because we have creative minds, it became a tangent, and I'm like, what if I could do like a 1-minute documentary story on that person, put some cool music with it, and have them narrated it. And the way I can get them to narrate it, I would interview them first, and then just take clips of it. So that's what it became, and that was great. Except
the interviews were 3 hours long.
The interview sometimes 3 hours for a 1-minute clip, and then I need to send the team back to get all the B-roll. So that takes weeks. And so we've shot a lot, and we still have some in the deck. And not that it's shelved or anything. Now we're gonna kind of revamp the concept. But this is how things happen, and this is how.
Break it down.
This is how, like, you know, sometimes you listen to an interview of your favorite singer or artist or rap artist, whatever, and you wonder, like, where is that second album? Where is that collab album and stuff? And then now I realize why things don't always come out, because there's things that happen. So boom, the podcast kind of takes center stage. Boom, the new hoodies have to be produced, or they're in production. So then that takes Mike away from everything else. Then everything has to go through Kevin, and then Kevin doesn't do the back end stuff.
And then obviously we got corporate clients.
But then Kevin needs to continue with his music video clients. Okay, then boom, I'm in Vietnam, and then now we have new interns, or we have new people a part of the team. And then boom, now Self-Hired is all of a sudden is just in this middle where we're having bigger corporate clients to pay the bills. And so now the creative side of things kind of take a back burner, not because we want to, but
because there's only so many people.
There's only so many people, and we got to pay the bills, right? So not to say that we're behind on anything. We're on schedule with what we've planned so far for the year. Self-portraits. There's also Let's Talk with my guy Floetic, who just was on Sway in the Morning.
Sway in the Morning, baby.
Oh, I'm so proud of Flo, man. He's really come up in a long way. And I remember he was one of my first. He was on that pilot show.
He was the first one.
And he's been on Self-Portraits. He's been on the podcast. He's family for real. So shout out to Floetic. He's gonna have
his own show here.
So his show. I mean, we started production.
Yeah, we did 3 episodes.
We did 3 episodes, and I have to go back and do that. But really, we just need to take our time to see what's going to come out first, what works the best with what we're doing right now. And that's not a way to curve everything, and it's not a fancy way to finesse everything, but it's just to see right now the podcast is ongoing, and so we kind of have a system running for that. The clothes, our new hoodie, right, just came out. So we're doing the promotion for that. We're also doing the sales for that. And right now we're dealing with a lot of corporate clients. And if you want to really quickly explain what our corporate clients are and how people can get in touch with us for that.
That's totally true. I mean, so we'll do a quick plug here. So Self-Hired is morphed into, and we'll end with this because I know we got to wrap up, but Self-Hired is morphed into a creative hub, whether that's apparel, whether that's music videos, whether that's events, shooting events, hosting events, whether that's, again, the podcast, self-portraits. There's so much that goes into this, and then because we're so well-versed, and these guys have literally been in it for a decade, you might have saw the Roman numeral X on the back of the hoodies. It's been 10 years in this. These guys are extremely well versed. You know, we've started to attract corporate clients and larger clients that that really want us to take on their digital, and whether that means 360 social media management and content, or whatever that might mean, whether that's crafting their promotions and their marketing, different campaigns, or whether that's just taking care of all their photo and video. That can mean a ton of things. So we've grown so exponentially that now businesses want to hire us to really take care of their digital needs. So that's another way we're being pulled in right now. So the team is growing. I know I've said it a lot, but the team is growing exponentially. It seems like, I mean, since you left, we added three new people.
I've only gone for 4 weeks.
And so we'll probably add another 3 in the coming weeks or months. So things are moving in a crazy direction. Kevin Hahn's got to step his game up and produce 18 things at one time. I got to start banging out 3 podcasts a week, and we're gonna automate it as much as possible. But I'll tell you what, above being busy and above all that, man, this shit is fun.
It is fun. I would not do this for fun. I don't need this. I don't do this for the money. That's for
sure. That's for sure.
Because this pays for itself right now.
Yeah.
I just want to shout out everybody who's been helping everybody who's kind of just lend their talents to us. And, you know, if you want to get down with us, just holler.
Yeah.
You know?
Open door.
If you don't, then
that's cool
too. That's cool too. We'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yo, bro, I'm looking forward to the next 6 months, man. Buckle up. I got it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and check in again.
That's a wrap.